minsan nag-stereotype na tayo ng mga tao pero hindi natin alam kung ano nga ba talaga yung reason kung bakit naging abnormal yung isang tao. Kaya ngayon
Hi, my name is Cedrick Manalo, and today I will talk about ADHD. ADHD, also known as Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder.
How to recognize ADHD symptoms in children. Is your child high-spirited and unfocused or suffering from attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? These ADHD guidelines will help you decide if a checkup is in order. You will need an analysis of their behavior, an idea of how long it's been going on, and a visit to the pediatrician. Step 1. Note their capacity for concentrating. Most young children have short attention spans, but those with ADHD don't seem to be listening even when they're spoken to. They frequently lose things, have difficulty following instructions, and often make careless mistakes. Step 2. Recognize if their energy level seems excessive, even for a child. Are they unable to sit without fidgeting? Do they get in trouble at school for leaving their seat, or running and climbing excessively or inappropriately? Do they talk incessantly? Interrupt constantly? Some children are more inattentive than hyperactive, and vice versa. Girls are more likely to have more attention problems, while boys more often fall into the hyperactive category. Step 3. Consider how long the behavior has been going on. If you've observed symptoms for more than 6 months, it might be ADHD. Step 4. Note where the behavior takes place. If it's only at home or only at school, something other than ADHD may be to blame for their symptoms. Step 5. Gauge the seriousness of the problem. Children with ADHD are regularly disruptive at school and at home. Their behavior causes problems in their relationships with both adults and other children. Step 6. If you recognize any of these symptoms in your child, take them to your pediatrician. It's important that they have a medical checkup to rule out other causes for their behavior before ADHD is diagnosed. Did you know children whose mothers had smoked while pregnant were more than twice as likely to have ADHD as children whose mothers did not smoke?
Marami sa atin ang nakaka-experience ng anxiety, lalo na sa ating mga estudyante. Ngunit ano nga ba ang anxiety disorder?
7 social anxiety disorder symptoms. Fear of embarrassment. Many individuals seek a quiet corner or avoid social situations completely for fear of embarrassing themselves. They feel as if everyone is judging them. They do not know what to say or do to stop the judgment. Their solution is to stay away from others to avoid being humiliated. They realize their fear is not rational, but they cannot help it. Nausea or sour stomach. Feelings of nausea or a sour stomach are common leading up to social situations. Some people become so anxious as they anticipate social activities, their symptoms begin before the actual activity. They fear not being able to socialize like others, and their anxiety grows until they are not able to function normally. Sweaty palms. A person's palms may start to sweat, and they might feel cold and clammy during social situations. Anxiety affects the body, causing temperature fluctuations. This causes not just sweaty palms, but sweating in general. Excessive worrying. Social anxiety disorder symptoms do not occur just during social activities. Excessive worrying can begin weeks in advance. They dread the upcoming event and will worry day and night. This affects their sleep, performance at work and school, mood, and general health. The anxiety only continues to grow leading up to the event. They often continue to worry long after the event is over. Difficulty speaking. When a person starts to panic in a social situation, they might not be able to speak easily. Their physical symptoms, along with psychological symptoms, make it difficult for them to think of the right words to say. The result is avoiding people so they do not have to talk. Avoidance of social situations. People often try to avoid social situations when they have social anxiety disorder. They make excuses to skip going out with friends or family. They feel this is the only way to prevent others from watching their every move and judging them. They do not want to feel anxious, so they avoid doing as much as possible. Children's symptoms. Children might exhibit all of the above along with several additional symptoms. Tantrums and clinging to parents is common when they want to avoid social activities, such as going to school. Mutism is also possible. This is when children stop talking completely at certain times or to specific people. These are less prominent in adults, but not unheard of.
Hi students, my name is Calimag. Ang i-discuss ko ngayong araw ay tungkol sa personality disorder. Ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng personality disorder?
Cultures have been studying human personality characteristics for thousands of years, but the concept of personality disorders is a much newer idea. Much of our modern classifications of these disorders are based on the work of German psychiatrist Kurt Schneider, who was one of the earliest researchers into what was then known as psychopathy, and published a treatise on this subject in 1923. Today, the DSM-5 contains 10 distinct personality disorder diagnoses grouped into 3 clusters. The first cluster, Cluster A, includes what are often labeled simply as odd or eccentric personality characteristics. For example, someone with paranoid personality disorder may feel a pervasive distrust of others and be constantly guarded and suspicious, while a person with schizoid personality disorder would seem overly aloof and indifferent, showing no interest in relationships and few emotional responses. Cluster B encompasses dramatic, emotional, or impulsive personality characteristics. For example, a narcissistic personality can display a selfish, grandiose sense of self-importance and entitlement. Meanwhile, a histrionic personality might seem like they're acting a part to get attention, even putting themselves at risk with dramatic, dangerous, and even suicidal gestures. The behavior of Cluster B can be truly self-destructive and frightening, and these disorders are often associated with frequent hospitalization. Finally, Cluster C encompasses anxious, fearful, or avoidant personality traits. For example, those with avoidant and dependent personality disorders often avoid meeting new people or taking risks and show a lack of confidence, an excessive need to be taken care of, and a tremendous fear of being abandoned. Now, in the past, and to a great extent today, some of these categories have been controversial. Many researchers argue that some of these conditions overlap with each other so much that it can be impossible to tease them apart. Narcissistic personality disorder, for example, has many traits that resemble histrionic personality disorder. And because of this gray area, the most commonly diagnosed personality disorder is actually personality disorder not otherwise specified, or PDNOS. The prevalence of this diagnosis suggests that while clinicians can identify a personality disorder in a patient, figuring out the details of the condition can be messy and difficult. One proposed alternative for diagnosing these disorders is the dimensional model, which in essence gets rid of discrete disorders and replaces them with a range of personality traits or symptoms, rating each person on each dimension. So the dimensional model would assess a patient not with the aim of diagnosing one disorder or another, but instead simply finding out that they rank high on, say, narcissism and avoidance. It's a work in progress, so with another generation, the clinical definition of personality disorder may evolve pretty radically. One of the best studied personality disorders right now is borderline personality disorder, or BPD. Borderline makes it sound like patients are pretty close to being healthy, but not quite, but that is not at all the case. BPD sufferers have often learned to use dysfunctional, unhealthy ways to get their basic psychological needs met, like love and validation, by using things like outbursts of rage, or on the other end of the spectrum, self-injury behaviors like cutting or worse. People with BPD were once commonly maligned by clinicians as difficult or attention-seeking, but we now understand BPD as a complicated set of learned behaviors and emotional responses to traumatic or neglectful environments, particularly in childhood. In a sense, people with this disorder learned that rage or self-harm helped them cope with traumatic situations, but as a result, they also end up using them in
Hi, I'm Enrico Francisco, and I will talk about mood disorders. Ang mood disorder ay may dalawang bagay. Isa dito ay ang bipolar disorder at ang isa naman ay ang depressive disorder.
When you're talking about a mood disorder, you may be just trying to classify one of the 3 major areas of psychiatric disorders. Psychiatric disorders can basically be broken up into psychotic disorders, anxiety disorders, and mood disorders. Mood disorders refers to the group of disorders where, as the name implies, the main problem is with an individual's mood. And there's basically 2 categories of mood disorders. There's the depressive disorders, in which the main symptoms have to do with depression, which I'll talk a little bit about. And then the other grouping is with bipolar disorders. The main example of that is bipolar I disorder, but there are several types of bipolar disorders. And what differentiates the 2 kinds of mood disorders is depressive disorders involve only disturbances of low mood or depression, whereas bipolar disorders have periods of depression, but they also have periods of elevated mood, or mania or hypomania and things like that. The main issue to understand about mood disorders is that, as I said before, they involve a disturbance in an individual's mood, the way that they feel. The interesting thing is that individuals may not always be aware that they're having disturbances of mood, and this is the reason that people often don't come to treatment. So basically, when talking about mood disorders, it differentiates from anxiety disorders on one hand and psychotic disorders on the other, where the main disturbance is an issue of low, or in some cases, low and elevated mood. And that's a basic definition of mood disorder.
Hi, my name is Mendoza. I will talk about dissociative identity disorder. Ano nga ba ang dissociative identity disorder? Ito yung multiple personality disorder characterized by the presence of two or more distinct identities in a person.
Hi, I'm Sean Vergara, third year Communication Arts. So what are my thoughts regarding the use of abnormal and words like that as jokes? Well, I think it's really offensive dun sa mga taong nakaka-experience nun. And I really think na kailangan mabago na yung pag-iisip ng mga kabataan or mga tao na abnormal is only a joke. It's a serious condition na if heard by those people suffering from it will be greatly affected by it. Pero sa tingin ko naman, unti-unti naman nagbabago yun kasi yung mga tao medyo nagiging sensitive na kasi hindi naman nila sinasabi yun sa mga may mental defect na abnormal sila. I mean, they only use it sa mga panahon, nakipag-joke sa friends nila. Pero dapat baguhin.